The following video is produced by University of Vermont Extension. For more information, visit uvm.edu/extension.
A field of grass in Vermont is generally not something to talk about. But this is no ordinary field of grass, and it does have a story to tell.
These grasses can last 20, 30 years if they're in the right, soil and environment.
Sid Bosworth is an agronomist at the University of Vermont who specializes in field and forage crops. With a focus on forage nutrition and management, Bosworth's work ranges from research in the field to educational programs for students, farmers, and land managers, which are also in the field most of the time.
Do you have any miscanthus, Jerry?
For several years, Bosworth has been researching how well grasses grow in Vermont in several plots around the state.
We're looking at it on 3 different soil types to see how well they're adapted. And this one looks very promising. It's a very beautiful plant. You can see the seed head gets quite tall.
This research is not about growing plants that look nice, although some, like switchgrass and miscanthus, are common in Vermont as ornamentals. But what Bosworth is hoping to do with all this grass is burn it.
These grasses have to be densified to effectively burn. And one of the methods, and probably the most common, would be to make pellets like this.
Research on alternative biomass sources is not a new idea. 60% of the fuel used in Vermont's homes and businesses is number 2 heating oil, which is petroleum-based and subject to price fluctuation. A number of crops, such as sunflower and canola, are already used as alternatives to oil in Vermont, and just as many more are being grown and studied.
My objective in this research is to evaluate different varieties and see how well they're adapted to Vermont for both persistence under different soil types, diseases, yield, and also combustion quality characteristics, which is our ultimate goal for the biomass crop.
In Vermont, wood is the primary alternative biomass, but based on work that's already been done elsewhere and Bosworth's own observations, these grasses have a lot of potential. They can be grown on unused or marginal land and require little maintenance once they're established. Bosworth is working with non-invasive and sterile varieties, and he's finding that some of the grasses are even more suited to Vermont's unique soil than he had hoped.
They're perennials, so they form a sod, so they protect the soil from erosion. They're good at water infiltration, so they protect against runoff, so there can be water quality improvement. Since they're not harvested until the fall, there's opportunities for wildlife to nest within the grasses, and actually something like grassland birds could nest and successfully fledge. There's very low input in terms of fertilizer and pesticides and that sort of thing. Once these grasses are established, there really is minimal inputs compared to the output that you can get from them.
To get the most information from the study, Bosworth is testing a variety of species at several sites around the state. The different locations will give a sense of how the plants will grow in Vermont's diverse soil.
Our soils in Vermont can vary quite a bit, even in the same field.
We know the soil, the growing conditions, the weather, the way the crop is harvested, the way it's processed, and what is in the makeup of the type of, in this case, grass that we're using.
Christopher Davis manages Meach Cove Farm in Shelburne, where the owners wanted a crop they could grow to replace some of the heating oil used on the farm.
We've already done the obvious things with Efficiency Vermont, more insulation, weather stripping, new windows on a number of the buildings. We needed the next step.
The test plots that Bosworth put in here several years ago are reaching maturity and the full potential of their production ability. Davis helps maintain the plots, and when they are mature, he will pelletize the grass and do burn studies over the winter.
The hope is we're going to be able to save a lot of time and effort for anybody else going forward who wants to be putting a grass crop that they could grow on their property into a heating unit. So we hope we're going to take a lot of the guesswork out of that.
So far, the research has been promising, showing which varieties grow well in wetter or drier soils and under other conditions, and which don't. One answer for Vermont could be to focus on a mix of grasses that will provide a variety of benefits.
This is a plot of switchgrass, the variety is Caven Rock, with big bluestem. The variety is Prairie View. It's very hard to establish this grass, so it might be risky to plant it alone, where the switchgrass is a little more successful. And it has attributes such as the carbon sequestration. So I think together they could make a nice blend.
Although this research is a start, many questions remain about how and where and what kind of grasses to grow, and how much biomass they'll yield, and how well they'll pelletize and burn. There are still a lot of questions. Sid Bosworth plans to answer them all. In Shelburne, I'm Rebecca Gullen with Across the Fence.